Okay, let's get to it. Today we're projecting the Toronto Maple Leafs forward roster for the 2018-19 season. Starting with the roster locks, 10 of them. Austin Matthews on the first line. Really, these two lines are interchangeable, but Matthews, who had about just over 60 points last year, one more than he actually played because he was hurt a few times, missed about 20 games. I could easily see him potting 40 to 50 goals if he's healthy. As usual, on his right wing will be William Nylander, who's an incredible playmaker, a fantastic skater, who has a really accurate shot, who doesn't shoot enough, which is a real shame. I have an asterisk up here on the board because obviously he hasn't signed his next contract. He's a holdout at the moment. We'll see how that goes, but hopefully it'll be finished anytime soon. And he's going to be replaced by someone else on the board who I'll get to a little bit later. On the new guy on the first line is Patrick Marleau, who's been bumped up. Patrick Marleau, the millennial man, has been scoring 20 to 27 goals a season since he's been in the league, really, and he just turned 39. He's still incredibly quick on his feet. He's a great finisher, and a fantastic mentor. This guy does it all, and he's replacing Zach Hyman on that line. So Austin Matthews has already said he'd like to bring up his assist point total this season, and he's easily going to do it with a player like Marleau on his wing. So. This is going to be a great line. And on your second line here, you have John Tavares. Hooah! If you don't know already, I'm a big Toronto Maple Leaf fan. So, sorry. And John Tavares, he's good for anywhere between 70 and 85 points in a season. I think he scored around 36-ish goals last season. With Mitch Marner on his line, watch out. Magic Mitch had the most points, led the Leafs in points last season with about 69. He had about 20 of those were goals. This year he came in the camp just bigger, especially in his back and his legs, just beefier. And Mitch Marner, as a lot of people have been comparing him to like Patrick Kane, him and Matthews have the biggest probably ceiling on this team, and I can see Mitch with Tavares. I can see anywhere between a 70 and 90 point season. Really, for Mitch, easily this season. I'm betting more like around 85. I'm gonna guess around 85. The new guy, they're all sort of new to this line, but is Zach Hyman, who came off the first line with Matthews and Nylander. Hyman, as you may know, is a worker bee. He gets into the corners. He digs out the puck real well. He gets in front of the net. He shields the goalie. He's really responsible defensively, and he scored like around 17 goals last season. On a line with Tavares and Marner, just in deflections alone, I think he can score that. So I think it's very possible you might see Hyman as a 20-goal scorer or very close to that this coming season. On the third line here, the third line, this could be some team's first line, is centered by Nazem Kadri, Nasty Naz. Nasty Naz, as the rest of the league knows him, has just come off back-to-back 30-goal seasons. That's incredible. And he's playing on the third line right now. So, and he hasn't lost in terms of his wingers. He hasn't lost any talent. So I know like James Van Riemsdyk left, but actually he was playing with Bozak anyways. I digress. On Nazem Kadri's wings are Connor Brown. Connor Brown can play up and down the lineup. He's he did score 20 goals the season before last, I believe, but he's good for probably around 14, 15 goals. He's really responsible. He's great in the corners. He's never out of position. He can play. He's played the first line before. He might be playing the fourth line before the end of the season. Who knows? You'll probably see him everywhere. Then there's the new guy on the block, Andreas Johnson. For those who don't watch a lot of hockey, Andreas Johnson he's been in the Marlies for the last little while, but he did get into the regular season lineup for about 8 or so games, and then he basically worked his way onto the lineup in the playoffs against the Bruins, where he usurped Komarov, and he looked really good. He then, when they were eliminated by the Bruins, he went back down to the Marlies, where he had missed about 10 or 11 games in, and he still ended up with the most points in the playoffs. This guy, what can I say about him? He's like a really skilled Komarov, but faster, much faster. He's got a really high IQ. He's a really good skater. He's a high energy, hard worker who has a nose for the net. And I wouldn't put 20 goals out of the. I don't think 20 goals is out of the question for Johnson or Johnson, however you want to pronounce that. He is Swedish, but there are some analysts who are even painting him as a Calder nominee, as a Calder winner next season. I think this third line is going to surprise a lot of teams, and you could see Kasperi Kapanen is penciled in here on the fourth line, which is where Babcock might start him. But these two may just be interchangeable right here for the most part. Kapanen is the fastest guy on the team. If you saw him in last year's playoffs against the Bruins, he was playing a lot on the penalty kill especially, but his burst of speed is just incredible. He needs a little work on his finish, but towards the end of the playoffs there, he was starting to find his groove. Excuse me. So he's another potential 20-goal scorer. I'm really excited to see how he develops with finally getting a solid spot on the roster, because he's been in and out of the lineup for 2 years between the AHL and the Leafs. So I'm really happy that he's finally a fixture there. Moving on to the near locks that we have on the board. There's two. Both of these guys are new. Par Lundholm is a centerman from the SHL, who's also played a lot of international games. He's not a typical fourth guy you would have at fourth line center. But these are the two guys Babcock has been talking about a lot, who will most likely start the season in those positions. Par Lundholm is more of an offensive-minded centerman, and I know he's okay on the face-offs, but he's not a typical fourth liner who's good at face-offs and he's a penalty kill guy, that kind of thing. So you could be looking at, although the fourth line's only going to get about 7 or 8 minutes with a top three like this. This line could also surprise a lot of people because of how offensive-minded it's starting to look. Because on just beside Lindholm here is Tyler Ennis, yeah. He originally started in Buffalo, where he played for a bunch of seasons. He had a roller coaster career there. He had a few 20-goal seasons. He was injured a few times. He was traded to Minnesota. That didn't work out. He was bought out. And then Leafs GM Kyle Dubas swooped in, offered him a base salary if he promised to come into camp early and really work on his game, which he did. And I have an asterisk there because he might, for the time being, he has been replacing William Nylander on that top line right wing in scrimmages and such. And there's actually a game on today. I'll be interested to see if he's playing in that position today. They're playing Ottawa I believe it's their first preseason game. So moving on to players that are on the bubble. Now, there's from this point on, there's only 2 more positions left. And those are going to be in the press box. So, starting with Josh Levo. Josh Levo. He's been sitting in the press box for the last 2.5 or so years. He's not eligible to be sent down because he would be taken off of waivers. He's really decent on the power play. He's got good hands, good creative offensive awareness. Babcock just doesn't seem to trust him, though. He has mentioned him a few times so far in camp, so it's possible he gets a shot at that last spot. But look for GM Kyle Dubas to trade him if he's not in there by the start of the season, because it wouldn't be right to see him sit for like a 3rd season in a row. It just, I mean, he only plays about 12 games a season. It's, yeah. Good guy, Ontario boy, loves the Leafs. Moving on, Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore has been a big surprise. Babcock seems to really have a liking for this guy. He is what I would call, to give you an idea of what kind of player he is, kind of a cross between Zach Hyman, I find, and Mark Stone from the Ottawa Senators. He's feisty. He's really good in the corners. He's slippery. He's a great puck stealer, and he's a smooth skater. He's a pretty decent skater. If you check my Twitter account, you'll see a goal he scored, which I think was in the AHL Calder Cup playoffs, and it was filthy. Yeah, it was almost kind of Denis Savard spinorama-like somewhat. Yeah. Moving on to the rest of the pack here are the 3 centermen. Adam Cracknell and Josh Juris are journeymen. You know, your typical 4th-line centers who are half decent at the face-offs, work the penalty kill, don't really put up any points, that kind of thing. And then there's Frederic Gauthier, who's drafted by the Leafs in 2013 and who's been playing in the Marlies ever since, in the AHL affiliate, and he's been playing up and down the lineup. Frederic Gauthier is 6'5" and 238 pounds. He's a big boy, but he doesn't play like a big boy, and that's Babcock's problem with him. Along with the fact that at least last year he was a little slow, but apparently in training camp he was doing a lot of work with Bob Underhill, their skating coach. And Babcock did mention him a couple times, so he may just have that spot in the press box. Of all these 3 guys here, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. In any case, this video has been long enough. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you really liked it, smash that subscribe button. And I'll see you soon.